What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the You Know Ball podcast. I am your host, Trill, bro, dude. And before we get into everything else, including Sam, are we worried about the Celtics?
Who? What? I've been like checking out age gap discourse, like really trying to get to the bottom of that. So I haven't had a lot of time for other stuff. Just trying to get that really nailed down. If you guys have any leads on that, or you want to engage me on that, instead of talking about the Celtics, go ahead. It's a more comfortable subject than the Boston Celtics for me.
Number one concern, is it okay if a 21-year-old and a 32-year-old date? Number two concern, Jason Tatum late game performances. Like that would I would say we rank them in that order. Yeah,
I mean, half your age plus 7 is also Jason Tatum's field goal percentage. Over the distance.
All right, before we get into that, what a great segue into our sponsor. We're going to pull up now. We have done a few different things here. We're going to do our Underdog Fantasy. We're going to show you guys the drafting on Underdog Fantasy. We're going to draft a team. If you go on to Underdog, use the promo code SLOP, that's SLOP, to get a $100 deposit match. Today, when you sign up, you can see here on Underdog's website, you get a bunch of different things that you can pick from. They have Monday Night Hoops. They have the full court press. You can win up to $6K if you come in first on Monday Night Hoops. We're going to enter that one. And then we're going to just draft a team. So basically, we'll just have to wait. And I can't tell have we decided whether we want to take this exercise seriously or do we want to just fuck around?
I think we should take it seriously, but by feel. You know what I'm saying?
By feel, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, do we draft the grossest team possible? Do we go one direction? Do we go a direction to make Kendrick Perkins mad at us? Do we go a direction to just get a specific kind of player?
So let's look at the matchups. I think we got to take Dame against Detroit.
Dame against if he's available there at 4. We have the 4th pick. We're about to be on the clock. The draft's about to start.
Oh, I didn't realize it's
okay. So Jokic.
I know how this works.
As you can see, yes, exactly. As they are our sponsor, and you use them all the time. Clearly,
yes, exactly.
So the draft starts in 15 seconds. Like obviously, you have Jokic and Embiid, Dame, and what I usually do is I go based on matchup usually as well. I would imagine Dame is going to absolutely go off tonight against the Pistons. And then sometimes I like to draft. I try to avoid drafting 2 guys on the same team, obviously, because generally speaking, usually only one guy goes off on any given night. And then in general, I usually try to fit some sort of. I go for high variance guys, so I'll draft the Damian Lillard first, someone that has the potential to get 70 points in a game. Yeah. I'll go, for the guys that shoot more threes, guys like Jokic who get a lot of rebounds. All right, Dame just got taken. Fuck.
Yeah,
all right.
Let's take Trey.
We have Trey. Okay, so we're going to go Trey against Miami, though. He struggles against Miami.
Does he struggle against Miami? Okay.
Yes. We have 10 seconds.
Let's take Harden.
All right, we'll take Harden against Indiana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Harden's going to eat.
Let's go.
Yeah.
We have our boy James Harden, who famously does get up for these big games in March against the Pacers and all these kind of teams. His history shows that he cares a lot about these games.
This is an assist off. This is for the assist title.
Oh, we already have people in the comments too. Jonathan, who we had an argument over Halliburton and Harden earlier in the Discord, and he said, I see Harden is above Halliburton on this Underdog thing.
Yeah.
So Underdog knows ball, Jonathan, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I think the next guy I would target if I were us, I think Jalen.
I was thinking without
Brown.
Tatum.
Yeah, I was gonna say heroic Jalen Brown. Jason Tatum, because he's playing like Nick Batum. That's the new thing is Jason Tatum. He's
that's not true. Nicholas Batum's way more efficient.
Kobe's final.
God damn it! Jalen Brown just went.
No, son of a bitch. They're watching.
They're very clearly one of the 7 people in the Patreon stream.
Donovan Mitchell cooks this. We go Donovan Mitchell.
Okay, so we're either going to go Donovan Mitchell or Jimmy Butler here. I'm feeling Donovan Mitchell is questionable, but I think he's going to end up playing.
We're on the clock.
Oh, we're on the clock. Yeah. So you want to go Donovan Mitchell?
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell, yeah.
Was not even paying attention.
Yeah, because
cool.
we gotta take it.
So we have James Harden and former future Sixer Donovan Mitchell. I was thinking about drafting Jimmy Butler there because he was still on the clock. He went with the next pick, mainly because I'm just trying to build a wish list for the Sixers offseason when Harden goes back to Houston, as we got more stuff on the Bill podcast about that today, which made me want to throw up.
Yeah. Do we question? Do we have does this we don't have to keep track of positions, right? This is just
this is all. So that's the beautiful thing about these drafts is that you don't have to build a real team. You could just draft all guards, you could draft all centers, you can draft whatever you want. It's not like, making a roster that has to make sense. In football, you have to do, when you do the football ones, it's like draft a quarterback, draft a running back, draft a wide receiver, but these are just all random. I
think we okay. De'Aaron Fox here.
But De'Aaron Fox also questionable. And Mitchell's also questionable. So I want to look at the notes here and see if he's actually playing. He just says he's listed as questionable. Do we want to go the safer route and pick someone who's not?
No, all in. De'Aaron Fox. Let's go.
Bucket.
Let's go.
So we're going all buckets right now. James Harden, Donovan Mitchell. This is the all bucket team now. We can't draft like Evan Mobley or something.
It's going to be a really good ad for Underdog when we just win $6,000.
You can do it too!
With this little promo bump at the very top. Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell scores 60 against the Celtics.
Yeah. Yes.
James Harden turns into Houston Harden again.
Now, I know we just said that Dame was going to go off against Detroit.
He is.
However, what if he doesn't? And what if it's Jeremy? Oh, fuck, they just took Jeremy Grant. Never mind. Neither of them are going off. Detroit is locking them down.
I was thinking Jeremy Grant revenge game, actually.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I had my eye on him, but once again, so sometimes you can go for the safer picks, like Jakob Poeltl's a safe pick because he'll get a lot of rebounds. He might get some stocks. And he's just kind of a high floor guy. But then again, you could get Tyler Hero, and Tyler Hero will have random games where he'll score 9 points and you'll want to pull your hair out. But then when he's playing against dog shit teams, he'll score 40 and you're like, okay. He's playing Atlanta tonight, which obviously not a great defensive backcourt, but I don't think they're quite bad enough that I feel comfortable drafting Tyler Hero. He's been on a little bit of a heater, even in those games that the Heat lost over the last, the Knicks game. He played pretty well in that game. So, all right. So Marvin Bagley. No, we got to go Tyler Hero. Or Maxey.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Tyler Hero's the pick.
Hero or Maxey. Okay, we already drafted Harden, so let's go Hero. Yeah. Because we're going for guys. Yeah, he scored 29 against the Knicks. He scored 20 in the last game. We're going for hoopers now. We're going for buckets. We're going for problems. And we're also trying to make it, we have 2 picks left. We're also trying to make it so that it could just be a random game where this person could score 40 or 50 points. I say that, and then we're going to get to the
here.
What's that?
Scotty's way down here.
Yeah, see, the thing with Scotty is that, you can look at the thing with Scotty is, he'll have random games. He doesn't score points is his thing. He'll get assists, he'll get stocks occasionally, but, he only averages 13, and the most amount of points you're ever going to get from Scotty Barnes in a game is 30, maybe. That's probably close to his career high, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's he's gonna have Contavious Caldwell Pope guarding him tonight or something like that.
Are they playing the Nuggets?
Yeah. So Aaron Gordon's gonna be on Pascal, you assume, right?
You guys are doing a Raphael Stone impersonation right now. We're literally just we're drafting. He's like,
Oh,
how
wait,
much swag?
We should take Derek. We should take Derek. Absolutely.
Derek White?
Yes.
Oh, because of no Tatum?
Yeah, no Tatum. He's been one of our best players.
Okay. We'll take Derek White.
We should take Derek.
All right, we got one more. We took Derek White. We're up in a few picks. There's some guys here. Buddy Hield, who I feel like maybe I'm just going based on a gut feeling here because the Sixers have been giving up a lot of open threes recently, but I feel like he could have a big game. Jaden Ivey's been playing better recently, but he still doesn't put up enough fantasy points for me to feel comfortable taking him. He does fit the mold of bucket and problem, though.
Oh, they just took Jonas now.
No, Jakob Poeltl's off the board, folks.
What about Scotty, Jonas? I just saw Jonas, didn't I? Is he hurt also, or?
I think he's playing Jonas. Yeah, he's down here. And the thing about Jonas is he's going to get rebounds and points.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And especially against the fucking Kangs, dude, it's going to be 100.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a high scoring game. We probably should have taken someone from that game other than De'Aaron Fox. Are there any like CJ McCollum already went for sure? Yeah. Damn, that would have been nice. I didn't even see Brandon Ingram. Maybe he's hurt.
He was up there.
Oh, he was? Damn.
Yeah.
All right, so last pick here. He's questionable too.
All in.
All right, we're going all in.
All in.
All right. Jonas Valanciunas is the last pick. So that's how you do it. Now we just won $6,000. Easy as that.
Easy.
Only cost $5 to do it, and we won $6,000 just drafting buckets and problems. So sign up for Underdog if you have not already. 10 minutes later, and we'll get into the podcast now. So, Sam, level with me here. Really, how do you feel about the Celtics right now? I want to know because I have some thoughts, but I also need because you watch every game. I've watched probably 50% of the Celtics games so far this year. I have a good feel for who they are as a team, but it feels like the panic meter on Celtics Twitter and on podcasts are kind of through the roof right now.
Yeah, I mean, I have given myself. I'm usually pretty resistant to panic. In general, like I was the guy who was saying when they were like under 500 in January, like they're good. I swear to God, they're good, and I was right.
A year ago, not this January. We knew they were good this January.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, there's some like weird stuff. Like Smart is not the same. Jason Tatum has been pretty much poo-poo since like the first 2 months of the season. He's been good sometimes, but like
great in the Cleveland game.
Yeah, you know, like he's good here and there, but he's just not like. Russillo said it on the podcast, and I actually kind of agree with this, where he said that Tatum is kind of a tiers super duper star, and man, it's hard to argue with that because like when Tatum is there, I will go all in for him. I was being such a sicko about his MVP pace because I like really believed it. He's just like not consistent. You need that fucking consistency if you're gonna be like a good and be like if you're gonna be the best player on a championship team. Like you can't have these. He really is like Kobe Bryant. Like again, you know, just these crazy inefficiencies. A much better defender. It's not quite the like passer and assist guy that like Kobe was. But you know, I think he has much more ability to be a much more efficient scorer. Which like drives me insane. Like I really think he should like play more like Kawhi. I don't know, the Rob thing, you know, like that hurts. You know, the double big. I get why people are frustrated and want to see Derek more. To be honest, I kind of want to see Derek a little bit more too. Like he's been really good. Again, Bill said it. He's been the third best player on the Celtics this year, and it's tough to argue with that. Like I've said the same thing. So I don't know. Like Bill was really pushing. You know, the Bucks are the best team in the NBA, blah, blah, blah. And I think the Bucks, you know, certainly look more complete after their trade deadline and everything like that. I still think, you know, and I've seen some Celtics people say that like, you know, they're just going straight vanilla. Like they have their cushion and like, you know, they're just not doing game film. I don't know about that. Grant Williams has not been great. That's kind of one of the big things that jumps out at me when I like look at stats and everything like that is, you know, I've always said Grant's a 16 game player, not an 82 game player. So I'm not even really worried about that, but there is something that just doesn't feel totally like right for a team that has this much depth, has been, you know, there's a couple guys missing every game, but like, it's such a deep team. It really shouldn't matter that much, you know.
It didn't for a while. Yeah. Even when you guys were missing guys, it was seemingly you could plug and play whoever, and it didn't really matter for the first month or two of the season.
Yeah. So I just, you know, I guess my thing is like, I still think the Celtics are like the team to beat. I still think the Celtics could absolutely get through to you know, I still think the Celtics could be in the finals like pretty easily. I do not think that the Bucks have suddenly like snatched the crown. I think it's, you know, maybe it's inverted a little bit, but I still think they're pretty clearly on the same tier. And I still like the Celtics in a playoff matchup. Like, I'm sorry, especially if Chris Middleton is going to be the worst player on the Bucks. Like,
yeah, that seems huge. And that was one of the takeaways I took from that Sixers game was that, wow, he's really, not the same guy. Look, he had a bad game. But he's been up and down. He's been inconsistent so far. And that's a massive piece. We saw it last year in the playoffs. Bucks fans talked about it ad nauseum. When you talk about the Tatum thing, when you say you wish he played more like Kawhi, do you just mean do you wish that he operated in the mid range a little bit more? Do you wish that he was a bit more of? Because I see people posting screenshots of a shot chart from last night where he shot basically it was Morty ball. Yeah. All of his attempts were at the rim or from three. They were all pull up threes or at rim looks.
I just mean not. He plays like he'll have these possessions where he just shoots it up, he does kind of dominate the ball, and he is that talented. But I just wish everybody got a touch a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? And I wish it was less cooking. I wish it was less isolation, less cooking. If you are gonna cook, be more physical. You're a fucking giant guy who is just has super long arms and can shoot over.
Been the best. He's actually low key been the best post scorer in the NBA this year.
Yeah,
when he posts up, it's basically a guarantee. It's like him and DeMar DeRozan are the two best.
Yeah, and it's always kind of been that way. But he wants to face up. He wants to fucking do the cool Kobe skill stuff. Which I get it. That stuff's cool. That's how he's grew up wanting to play. He's still pretty good at it. You know what I'm saying? It's
he was an MVP candidate early in the season.
MVP candidate, but it's just, I guess it's just so frustrating because he's so fucking good. He's so good. He's so good at one of the most important positions in the NBA to be good at, and he's got all these other skills. He's got passing. He's quietly an insanely fucking good rebounder, but can't really do it because he's always got the ball or he's shooting outside. But when he's actually in position to rebound, he's really fucking good at it.
I know the end of that Sixers game, he had that putback that kind of made the game a little bit out of reach.
Yeah, and it's just I guess that's just what's frustrating is that Jason Tatum is this really fucking good player who could be even better. And it feels like the final revenge against Kobe that he saw the Celtics were getting a good player in 2017, and he was like, "Hell yeah, come on over, let me train you for the summer of 2018, and let the worst thing he's ever done to the Celtics franchise, and that includes the 2010 finals." Anyway, but yeah, I guess there's and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, Al Horford, who thought that Al Horford would also just be one of the most solid parts of the Celtics season?
Shooting 45% from three, other than that missed shot last night, which obviously I think Sixers fans really enjoyed. I think that he's been incredibly clutch, but also how much can you rely on that when it comes to playing big minutes in a playoff series at his age is something we're going to see as we get closer to the playoffs. I think that a lot of these guys that get up there in age, the hope was that Rob was 100% and you wouldn't have to worry about that as much, but you at least had the option to go to some smaller lineups. I watched both games. So I watched the Brooklyn game and I watched the Knicks game, and it feels and we always talk about this with the Celtics, where the teams that they struggle with are the teams that have athleticism. They have guys who can pressure the ball, guys who can, get live ball turnovers, get the team out running, whatever.
Especially wing defenders. You've got a fucking Josh Hart, or Mikal Bridges, or some of these other guys who are.
Dorian Finney-Smith was awesome in that game the other night. Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking about it when I was watching the Knicks game last night, and we always talk about, we talk about the Heat and the Raptors and the teams that have done this in this era. Yeah. But who is the OG of this shit? Who is the originator of let's say the precursor to rat ball? You could say it was the Tibbs Bulls, in terms of just being physical.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Stemming back to his Celtics days, always been a defensive first guy. Yeah. The Tibbs Bulls were kind of this blueprint of winning on defense with an offensive superstar in Derrick Rose. And it is funny now that I'm watching this Knicks game last night going, they have Josh Hart now. They have Emmanuel Quickly, who are both very good elite on-ball pressure guys who can, cause turnovers and, really just wreak havoc in passing lanes and stuff like that. And if that is the case, it feels like this Knicks matchup is, to me, the talent gap between the two teams should make it not as close as it is, I guess I should say. Knicks.
You mean the talent gap for the plus 11.7 no RJ Barrett Knicks, as Will has pointed out.
Literally,
they're like Will had this before.
They'd be the greatest team of all time.
They're above the 08 Celtics, but slightly behind the 2017 Warriors.
Yeah,
the non RJ Barrett Knicks.
Yes, so the non RJ Barrett minutes, which are like well over 1,000 minutes. I'm sure Will will tell us in the comments right now, but it's literally the greatest team. But RJ Barrett played big minutes last night and scored 30 points and was great in the first quarter. For some reason, he is decent against the Celtics, I would say. He had a huge shot against them last year. Yeah. He had a huge shot against them this year in Boston. He struggled down the stretch. All right, so the 2017 Warriors were a plus 11.6 net rating. The 2008 Celtics were a plus 11.2 net rating. RJ Barrett, the RJ Barrett Knicks, in the minutes that he does not play, are a plus 11.3 net rating. So, are we? And look, I was more concerned about the Nets game than I was about the Knicks game when it came to the Celtics. I'm very much, and I've been saying this to Sixers fans recently, we lost a close one to the Celtics. We lost a close one to the Heat. We came back in the Mavericks game. They obviously win the Bucks game. They win that Heat game in between without Joel. I've been saying you can't overreact to last-second losses. There's too much variance in this shit throughout the course of a season to really get caught up on, we lost. Unless it's like you're losing last second to the Detroit Pistons or something. Or you're winning last second against the Detroit Pistons. That's understandable. You should easily beat that team.
Or let's say you're up 17 against Cleveland, and then it ends up being a one possession game in 5 minutes.
Yes,
but, some of the insane things.
Both of our teams did that. Yeah, literally within the span of 2 weeks. There are certainly things.
Then do you panic?
Yeah, exactly. There certainly are things that you can be concerned about, but the reason why the Brooklyn thing was more concerning to me was because not only are the Celtics way more talented, they seemingly showed it in that first half. And look, no lead is safe in the NBA anymore. I basically don't make any grand assumptions in a first half anymore because I tweet something and then an hour later it looks like total shit. And the Sixers Mavericks game was another example. They were up almost 30 and the Sixers almost came all the way back.
There's a really funny thing about where old fans think that Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum's Celtics are this heroic band of chokers because they don't understand that just is the NBA now. Yes. They think it's they only watch the Celtics so they think it's something.
Sixers fans do this too. Yeah. It drives me insane. I literally have Sixers fans every night saying to me, same old Sixers, and I'm like, We lead the NBA in comebacks this year. Not an exaggeration. We have the most comebacks of any team in the NBA this year. We have blown less leads than the Celtics, which before this weekend looked really good. And we have blown just as many leads as Milwaukee. I joke about it on the streams constantly where I'm like, well, that's the modern NBA. What can you do? It's the modern NBA. But really, that's the reality. Is teams blow leads. Teams kind of, they don't go full effort. They don't put their foot on the other team's throat. It's a January game. It's a March game. It's a February game, whatever. Yeah. But when you have this history, especially with the Sixers and then Celtics last year did this a lot where they would blow these games and it was, it's panic from the fans. I think that there is some reason to be concerned for sure. Yep. If I were the Celtics, I mean, look, I want to enjoy the Celtics sucking just as much as every other Sixers fan. But the one thing I will say that you could look at this positively is, we've talked about the importance of the 1 seed all year, right? Yeah. You're probably not going to get the 1 seed, but it is very important. With the way that Milwaukee's been playing recently, and the Milwaukee has been the best team in the NBA for the last month, even with that loss against the Sixers the other night, it feels like that is probably slipping out of your grasp a little bit, which sucks. Mm-hmm. But honestly, at this point, if you're a Celtics fan, would you rather play the Knicks or the Cavs in the second round, or would you rather play the Sixers? Because it seems like no matter what we fucking do, we can't beat you.
I've seen that worm turn now.
That's true.
The 2004 Red Sox Yankees have taught me that, like, that's not a real, like, I don't want any part. I think this Sixers team is better than most people do. Like, I think people get too caught up in the James Harden disappearing act. And while it is alarming, especially with all this, like, Houston shit, like, Sure. He's really fucking good, and I feel like that's being, like, discounted this year for some reason, just because
he is the reason we have these comebacks. Let's be clear on that.
Yeah.
There is finally a guy who can say, hey, in the fourth quarter when we get there, I'm going to make the right decision almost every time. I might have games where I shoot like shit in the fourth quarter, but we're going to be in every big game because every possession is going to end with a good shot. And that's something that Harden it brings to the Sixers, that as great as Joel Embiid is, he's the best player on the court through three quarters. And historically, he has had disappearing acts in the fourth quarter as well. And like, I think that's just more a nature of who he is as a player in terms of he's not the best decision maker with the ball. He can get flustered by double teams when teams are focused in on stopping just him. He doesn't trust his teammates maybe as much. He's gotten better with it incrementally, but he's still not like a decision maker that you feel super comfortable having the ball. You feel comfortable with Harden running the offense and getting Joel into his spots. And that's something that's different for the Sixers this year. And I actually think when we get into the Sixers-Bucks game, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But like, I'm not saying that the Sixers can't beat the Celtics, because I do agree that this team's better. And I think that when the rotation shrink and whatever, like, they certainly have a puncher's chance in a Celtics series.
Yeah.
I think they match up better with the Bucks. I think they match up better with the Cavs. I think they match up better with every other team that they could possibly face in the playoffs. I think the Celtics seem to be the one matchup that just gives them a ton of trouble. And if that is the case, if you are the Celtics, the silver lining to getting that 2 seed is, okay, you'll win against the 7 seed. I don't care if it's Miami or whoever. You're going to beat that team. The path is going to be maybe a little bit tougher than you had originally anticipated, but you're still probably not going to play Milwaukee until the conference finals at the worst. And as we've said, like, I don't really think Milwaukee is this world-beating team. The Celtics still are the only team in the NBA with a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. They still lead the league in net rating. Like, there are things that big picture you can't worry as much about, but all of that stuff is kind of built on a super strong start to the season. The first 2 months.
That's the thing is, you know, like, if the start to the season's a little Mickey Mouse, then it's like, well, like, yeah. And then I guess that's the thing with the long season. Like, our games right now less Mickey Mouse, because you could also argue that, like, after the All-Star break, no one fucking cares. Will actually had a great point a while ago, and that was something I meant to bring up earlier, but he pointed out that Tatum, like, looks tired. And that is a real thing with Tatum, because Tatum is an Iron Man who plays all these fucking games. But, like, he's like also a guy who, like, very genuinely fucking loves basketball to the point where it's fucking detrimental. Like, he will just go play, like, fucking Team USA games and all this.
Yes.
It's like,
this is why I picked you guys for the 1 seed, because you guys never turn off.
Yes, that's the thing, is he just doesn't. He's, like, always playing, and I think he does get, like, tired, and I think that's the loose handle. I think that's the turnovers. I think that's all that shit. I think that's why they, like, get worn down and everything, is because it's like, I don't know. It's a lot to be the number 1 option and play as many games as he does. Like, who are the guys who do that? Like, without missing games, like Giannis, maybe, like Jokic, I guess, but like,
well, Giannis has missed just as many games as Embiid this year.
Is what I'm saying. Like, it's there's like as well, and that's what Brian said. Like, I think he probably should be load managed a little bit, but he won't, because he's a hooper. He loves hooping.
Well, he's not playing on the second half of a back-to-back tonight. But this is why we always get mad at, and I'm not going to do the load management conversation again, because it's been driving me insane that it's every fucking podcast forever. I don't care about the NBA's ratings. I'm sorry. I don't care if you traveled to see a team, whatever. I'm sorry. This is all from the team perspective. Players want to play. Stars want to play. Yeah. Embiid has to be held out of games. Tatum has to be held out of games. Harden has to be held out of games. Like, This is not something that players are, except for there's one historical exception here, and it's Kawhi Leonard, who has a fucking genetic knee condition that is literally fucking his body up. Like it's he has to load manage or he can't play.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone just gets fucking everyone gets so mad at that. It's like, hey, you have a fucking calendar. If it's a second night of a back-to-back for the other team, Steph Curry's probably not going to fucking play. He's 37 years old. Like, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
But anyway, I guess my point here with the Celtics is just I think it's probably still fine. I just do think, Celtics Matt and I were going back and forth about what is the right lineup here? Because I think, there's factions on Celtics Twitter. There's people who really don't really like Derek White, really hate. It tends to break up people who don't like Jaylen Brown and Rob, and then they like Derek White and
Al Horford.
You know what? Not even Al Horford, because there's also a Kemba spillover. They were against the trading Kemba, and anyway. But everyone's kind of broken up into these weird little factions, and everyone's got meandering everyone's committed to whatever fucking stance they picked out. It's like that in every fan base, I'm sure. I'm sure there's stuff like that.
Of course.
There's people who hate Maxey or something like that. But I think that the Rob thing, I'm disappointed because I really did think Rob was going to be over a full season would be able to play a little bit more, and I am disappointed in that because I do think he's the ultimate ceiling of the Celtics. He's the ultimate wild card because I think if he's healthy, the Celtics are bar none the number one team in the NBA, and because I think what we're talking about right now, it really is a Celtics team that is mostly dependent on a fifth starter of either Derek White or Grant Williams, depending on what you look at. And I think that what we're finding out is the Celtics' best lineup right now, if they wanted to start and win games, it would probably be Derek White, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Al Horford, and a 4-out lineup. The problem with that is a lot of strain to put on Jason Tatum, who is supposedly your number one option. But that lineup has been fucking bonkers all year. Derek White is bonkers in every lineup. If you go to the Derek White's lineup data, it's insane. How many things he's in there. But Rob has been really good too in non-Marcus Smart minutes, which is weird because they actually have pretty good chemistry. So there's a lot of weird stuff that doesn't seem to gel with what's happened in the past with the Celtics. I'm speaking as someone who's really paid very close attention to this team for 6 years. There's a lot of stuff that is not traditional here. For example, Jason Tatum being good in November and being shitty in March.
Yeah.
The exact opposite of what has always happened.
Yeah, so, he's always been. It was always, is this guy even a star through 2 months? Yeah. And then it was, oh my God, it's Michael Jordan with a jump shot. That was the joke. And that we got the meme that we always got.
I'll say this.
Okay.
If Derek White shoots like this, if this Derek White shows up for the playoffs, they absolutely should start Derek White. The problem is Derek White, I am still scarred by how bad Derek White was in the playoffs last year. And
he even had that stretch this year, which it seems like if Derek White is playing big minutes and hitting shots, the Celtics are really good. And it seems like anytime that he goes off, the entire team is off in terms of percentages. We had that stretch where they were historically good to start the season, and then they were really bad for the month of December, and the offense fell off a cliff. Then they rebounded a little bit. Once again, we constantly talk about variance, and the Celtics, probably more so than any team in the NBA, have really bought into this idea of, Tatum as kind of the head of the snake, a guy who can, be your main creator, get drive, hit pull-up threes, and when those looks aren't there, when he's getting trapped or he's reading the coverage and he's seeing that, he's going to face 2 on the ball when he gets into the paint, he's done a really good job of moving the ball, getting shots for Horford wide open, White wide open, Rob Williams wide open, and it feels like, as you said, there are times where Tatum has gone into hero mode, and that has kind of stagnated the offense a little bit. The one thing is, when you get to the playoffs, that's kind of how it always is. You want to have guys who can hit tough shots at the end of games, even if in the regular season it can kind of drive you insane through stretches. Yeah. The other thing I was going to say is, I've always defended Grant Williams against Celtics fans who are negative because I'm would kill to have Grant Williams on the Sixers, like a guy who could just spot up in the corner. By
the way, did you hear Bill lusting after Niang?
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, but that's a perfect like sweat.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. I don't watch him every night. But I did watch him this weekend, and I can see the frustration that Celtics fans have. I get it now a little bit. Now, I still think he's a solid play, a good solid role player, and someone who will be in your playoff rotation, and he'll be beneficial for certain matchups, like he was in the Bucks series last year. And once again,
Grant,
the point is you need to have depth and versatility for matchups.
Yes,
and if you have him, he's going to be good in the Bucks series because you can't. The way that their defense functions is essentially you put Giannis and you let Giannis roam. You have either Giannis or Brook in drop for most of the game. Giannis obviously can switch. They can give some defensive versatility if they need to go to him at the 5. But they're almost all bent on deterring people from scoring at the rim.
Yeah.
And when you put Grant in there, it does give you the option to have another guy who could space in the corner, who's willing to put up those threes. And then, by the way, he's not going to kill you if you have to guard Giannis. I can't remember.
Strong enough to make it hard.
Yes.
That's the thing, is he's like a 99th percentile strong guy. People don't know that Grant's insanely strong. He tested in the PS, the place all the guys train, during the Grant comp. He was 99th percentile on their database. And
sure.
He's very strong, which is what the Al Horford's got a little bit of that too. That's how Al Horford survives despite being 6'10" and not. That's the thing with Giannis is you need guys who are strong, but the thing is you need 3 of those guys because they're gonna get 5 fouls throughout the game.
I can't remember. I can't remember where I heard it. It might have been Ben Taylor's Thinking Basketball podcast, where he talked about how there are very few players in the league that can guard Ja Morant and Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Grant Williams is one of them. Now, can he do it amazingly? Not all the time, because those guys are superstars. They're going to be really hard to stop. I mean, it's the joke I have about Tobias Harris. He's the most average, probably above average, versatile defender in the NBA. You can put him on guards, usually guards that aren't the most athletic. You can also put him on big guys because he's strong. He can guard centers. He can do a lot of things. And that, when you get into the playoffs, is one of the more important things for a wing to be able to do. And I still think that the Rob injury is going to tell you a lot, because I still think that if Rob's healthy, you guys have the best 1 through 8 in basketball.
I agree.
But if Rob isn't healthy, then that becomes 1 through 7 and a bunch of question marks.
Well, and it doesn't give us the big option.
Yes.
That's the thing, is we don't have a second big who's anywhere near as capable as it just erases all of that.
Sure.
They turn into a much more conventional team that plays small.
And wants to shoot and really has to lean into the variance thing,
yes.
which is with Mike Muscala or Grant, if you want to go super small or something like that. And I do think that Derek White and Marcus Smart being such good rim protectors certainly doesn't make Rob's going to be obviously the best rim protector on the team, but I certainly think that makes it so that you can get away with some of those smaller lineups that you might not have been able to in the past. But it's going to be interesting to say. I still think that I don't know. I'm conflicted here because I keep hearing about how Milwaukee is now the favorite and now should be, whatever. But I still see a lot of the same flaws with Milwaukee that I've seen all year.
I don't think
I watch night-to-night games.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think they're 16-game win streak good. They've gotten they're a lot like the Celtics. The Celtics also, what was the Celtics win streak? Was something like that. I think it was
I don't know how many games.
Yeah, whatever the fuck it was. And that team was the number 1 offense by a mile, and was just shooting the fucking cover off the ball every night. Shooting 60% from 3 or something absurd. I don't really fear, I don't really fear the Bucks. You know what I'm saying? They could beat us, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think they're I don't think that there is, if both teams tomorrow played the 7-game series, I feel fine with that. to be honest.
We're seeing the parity shake out in real time because early in the season, it did look like the Celtics were, head and shoulders above the rest of the league. And then Denver went on their run, and the Sixers went on their run, and Milwaukee went on their run. And now it's a little bit more even in terms of net rating, in terms of record. Yeah. Milwaukee has, and I actually think that the reason why you would favor Milwaukee is because you just feel like you have to have the best player to win the series, and Giannis is more capable of that than Jason Tatum or Joel Embiid or whoever they're facing in a playoff series. Yeah. So if you look at their cleaning the glass page, because I thought about this all year where I'm like, damn, the Sixers are winning close games because they've been, don't get me wrong, they've been good down the stretches of games. Execution's on point, defense is locked in. All of these things are good, but it also scares me a little bit because when you have that kind of variance that we always talk about, where games can go 50-50 and they could go either way, if you're winning all of those games, a slight regression when the effort levels go up from other teams or the shooting's a little bit better. Like, for example, in high leverage moments this year, the Sixers are, when they're playing against teams, they're shooting like 20% from three, which is just, regardless of how well you're playing defense, is not sustainable in any capacity when you get into the playoffs. That's something that concerns me. The Sixers have been shooting really well in high leverage moments too. All of their starters have been great late in games. Some of these things, they're not super sustainable. The Bucks, on the other hand, have basically won every single close game they're in until that Sixers game the other day. They have 4.5 to 5 more expected wins this year than they would. If you just go based off net rating and then you averaged out how many wins a team with that net rating would win, the Nets have 4 to 5 more wins than they would be expected. The Sixers have 2.5. It's not like this team is completely dominating in a way. They're just grinding out with effort. They're grinding it out with, Giannis, obviously, when he wants to, can just be like, well, no one can stop me. I'm either going to get to the line or I'm gonna turn it into some good late game offense. And defensively, that's really where their bread and butter is in terms of late game defense. And when you lock in, if the Bucks are going to win, they're going to have a historically good playoff defense again. And that's where when I went into that Sixers game, we've been saying all year, we've been saying, me and you, it's a rock, paper, scissors thing. Yeah. Which people are finally starting to come around to. Yeah. The Sixers actually match up pretty well with the Bucks. Yeah. Despite this idea that the Bucks are much better than the Sixers. Yeah. The Celtics match up very well with the Sixers, despite the record being kind of similar. And the Bucks and Celtics are pretty evenly matched, and the Celtics might even have a slight advantage in that kind of matchup. So it might be, when we might be seeing this play out, but if the Bucks just run away with the 1 seed because their schedule is easy for the rest of the year, then they might be the one that just kind of coasts to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Do they have an easier schedule?
So easy.
Really?
The Sixers schedule over the next 7 to 10 games is decently, not that hard. Yeah. It's really hard the last 8 or 9 games of the season. The Bucks they play the Pistons. They just played the Wizards yesterday. They play the Pistons. They play the Wizards again. They have a cupcake ass schedule down the stretch. They have a Celtics game and a Sixers game, and other than that, it's pretty fucking easy. So they really have a chance in this next 2 to 3 weeks to run away with the 1 seed and create that ultimate advantage over the Sixers and Celtics, where they just don't have to play either of those teams until the conference finals. And then you're probably playing the Knicks in the second round.
According to Tankathon, the Celtics actually have an easier schedule than the Bucks do. Bucks are middle of the road.
Okay. So is that expected win percentage though? Because I feel like
I think it might just be strength of schedule versus.
Yeah, that's probably.
I think it's just taking into account how many opponents are left. Bucks have a Nuggets game, Celtics, Grizzlies, Kings, Nets, Sixers.
Sure.
Versus
the Nets also. This is Tankathon can't tell. Oh, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving aren't on the Nets anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say
So they have the Magic, the Nets, the Warriors, the Kings, the Suns, the Pacers, the Raptors, the Spurs, the Jazz, the Nuggets, the Pistons, the Pacers. They have some layups, But also keep in mind, as Nihilist Bucks always tells us, the Bucks are kind of similar to the Sixers in that these games that seem like layups are like they could easily lose to the Hornets.
Celtics do that. Those teams, all three of these teams have the absolute capability to like blow under the Pistons.
Yes,
or lose to the Magic 3 fucking times. In
exactly.
Season.
It's true.
Yeah, we would do that.
Yeah, exactly. We the Sixers do it. It's the same thing. Like, there's no way they should have lost that. I know the Heat are better than these teams that we're talking about. There's no way they should have lost that game to the Heat. Like, there's no way that they should have lost to the Rockets in December. Like, there are games where you're just like, Jesus Christ, like what's happening here? The Sixers schedule is really tough. The next few weeks should determine kind of how these teams break. But the Sixers, coming out of that Sixers-Bucks game, part of me I feel like we've been a little bit vindicated in that we think that the Sixers matchup for the Bucks is better than people had given it credit for.
If I were you guys, I would be rooting for the Celtics to get the 1 seed.
That's what I've been. Now I know I know it sounds ridiculous, but now it's like there were Sixers fans, or I'm sorry, there were fans that were rooting for us against the Bucks the other night, and Celtics fans. And I was like, oh no, now you get to experience what it's like to be a Sixers fan for a game. Yeah. And I'm watching the Celtics rooting for them against the Knicks last night. And I'm like, okay, now I get why everyone hates Grant Williams. Because I'm like watching it from the perspective of I have invested interest in this and he's having a doo-doo ass game.
And I think, and like, we already know for the conference finals, you guys match up well against the Knicks. So that's
yeah, I know. So everyone keeps saying that. They're like Sixers, Knicks. If Adam Silver had it his way, it would definitely be Celtics or Sixers versus Knicks in the conference finals. I'll tell you that much. The only person who truly believes that isn't a Knicks fan, that truly believes the NBA is better when the Knicks are better, is Adam Silver.
I honestly, like, that would, if I were Adam Silver, that would be what I would want. Knicks, Celtics, Bucks. Yeah, like Giannis in the as the round 2 matchups, like that would be ideal because then you can like Giannis and Embiid, and you get kind of the Joker versus Embiid light, you know what I'm saying, on that side of the bracket, like, and Celtics, goddamn dude, if the Celtics lost to the Knicks in round 2, you would need to do a casting call for like the next unalive. I would like if there was a game 7, you literally couldn't have me on playback because of just hearing
the FCC has said that our stream has been banned. Wish it for the things that Sam has wished upon Emmanuel quickly.
I was just gonna say the things I would say if there was a Knicks Celtics game 7. The Raptors Celtics game 7 almost killed me. Like I oh my god.
Yeah, I remember that one came down to the end. I remember that one, the bubble game, which honestly, another rat mode series that the Celtics should have never let go to a game 7. Exactly. They should have went up 3-0 and it should have been over.
Rat mode, our enemy. Like I'm just.
So So is Tom Thibodeau the master splinter of the? He's gonna go back in the
rat mode Knicks. Yeah.
Shit. But no, like so coming out of that game the other night, and look, I understand there have been a lot of people in Sixers Twitter. There have been a lot of people in the Discord, the Unoball Discord, that have been saying, this is the same old Sixers. This is the same old team. They do the same old stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what they have to do to convince you other than getting to the conference finals. That's nothing they can do in the regular season will prove to you as a fan that this team is different. Now,
how about Joel Embiid doesn't break his fucking face in the playoff? Like,
there's that.
Yeah, like I don't know. I guess that's just my thing when people are like considering the Sixers all the time. Is like Joel is always like he has never really been healthy. Like there was the hospital Celtics 5-game series. I get why that was traumatic. Like, but since that time, there's always been something going on with the Sixers. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know.
Yeah. So I do agree with that part, but I also have to say this is the first time that they've ever had any sort of competence when Joel's on the bench.
Yep.
Because Harden is this blew my mind. Harden on, Embiid off during games where Embiid plays, right? So if Embiid is on the court and he goes to the bench, the Sixers are a plus 3.2 in the minutes that it's just Harden and no Joel Embiid. That is the highest mark that he's ever had from a teammate when he goes to the bench. The highest mark is we're beating teams by 3 points per 100 possessions, which is pathetic. I mean, that's like that's the equivalent of like a play-in team. That's not to say anything about James Harden. That's to say how bad things have been for the Sixers in the past when Joel goes to the bench, because everything is built around Joel. And what we saw at the end of this Bucks game is what we've been seeing all year, is that when James Harden can get us to the fourth quarter, when he's the one that's making the decisions, he has the ability to go on runs in this games, to match up Hunt in these games, to get the Sixers good outcomes at the end of games in a way that they haven't had before. Now, the issue for the Sixers is always going to be they're probably going to have to face Boston or Milwaukee in round 2. And if I had to put my money on it, one of those teams is probably going to win the championship. So that is really where this confirmation bias is going to come from with Sixers fans if they lose in the second round again. Is that, oh, well, you see, they lost. And it's like, no, this isn't losing to the Hawks. This isn't losing to the Heat. This isn't losing. This is losing to a team that legitimately could win the championship. This is closer to when they lost to the Raptors, to be honest. Like that year. Exactly. That year was like, that team was good enough to go to the conference finals or the finals. The problem was they ran into the team that literally won the finals later on, and they had an all-time performance from an all-time player in Kawhi Leonard. So
one of the most insane shots in the history of the NBA is what it took to send them to the finals.
Exactly. So
you guys won the title that year.
The reason why I've liked the Bucks matchup, and I've thought about it all year, and I had to watch the game to really see why. And obviously Middleton, the thing about the Middleton thing that's crazy to me is like defensively, oh my God, he was getting gashed over and over. When they put Grayson Allen on the bench, Harden had another guy to target Middleton, and Bucks fans kept saying, well, why didn't we go to Jay Crowder? And it's like, I agree that I think Jay Crowder will hold up better defensively, but how are you going to score in the half court in a fourth quarter of a playoff game when you have Chris Middleton, who 2 years ago, you won the title on the back of Giannis going sicko mode in the playoffs and Chris Middleton literally having some of the greatest clutch shots in the history of the NBA in that run. In terms of like statistically, he was like one of the most clutch players ever in that run. And look, Drew's been awesome. He shot the fucking Brook, Giannis. They couldn't fucking miss. Giannis made every free throw. Brook made every shot. The Drew went 9 for 13. They were all awesome. Their offense was not the problem. I don't think that's sustainable for the playoffs. I still think they need a shot creator, and I'm not sure Drew Holiday, as he's shown in the past, is capable of doing that on the biggest stages when defenses really lock in, when defenses really have time to game plan for your team. And as amazing as Giannis is, the game plan can't just be dump it to Giannis and let him cook. As we've seen in the past, that's not always the greatest thing in half court in the playoffs. So the thing that I will say that made me encouraged about this game is the Sixers. The real reason why the Sixers match up better with the Bucks than the Celtics. They touched on this a little bit on the Bill pod, which is like they're more slow and methodical. They're not hyper athletic. That's certainly true. That's undeniably true. And get out and run. And their best players aren't really the greatest shooters. Blah blah blah. The real thing to me is that Niang and Maxey were both playable in this game. And Maxey has proven to have some of the best games in his career against the Bucks. Niang, who has been truly fucking awful for about a month or two for the Sixers, was completely playable and an important part of that finish, because the Bucks just don't have guys that can like the Heat and the Celtics. They can go small and they can play George Niang off the court. They can play guys who are more plodding and unathletic off the court. That might bring something that the Sixers really need. And the Sixers become an incredibly shallow team once you remove Maxey and Niang from the equation. They have no other, you're pulling from Daniel House and Furkan Korkmaz and Shake Milton. And I would prefer Daniel House to be in the rotation in the majority of games over George Niang. But these are guys between Niang and House that you can't rely on to play in every matchup in the playoffs. So the Sixers, in a way, might have a little bit more matchup versatility against the Bucks because the Bucks don't really have that option to go small and play certain guys off the court or just attack Maxey on every single possession. They can try, but I think that the other night proved that the Sixers can hang with them because their stars can make tough shots in big moments, and Harden and Embiid both did the other night. And in addition to that, it proved that they just have guys that aren't going to be played off the court in a Bucks series. And I think the Bucks depth is better. I think this Bucks team is better than most Bucks teams that we've seen in the past. But if Middleton isn't Middleton, that's a huge part of their equation that's gone. And I just don't know how they're going to score enough. I know that it sounds ridiculous coming off a game where they scored 130 points, but also fucking Grayson Allen couldn't miss. Drew Holiday couldn't miss. These things aren't sustainable for an entire playoff series. So I'm very concerned about the Bucks half-court offense if Chris Middleton is this version of Chris Middleton.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing is I think what people – I think the Celtics kind of shooting themselves with turnovers and, like, choking away a couple of games, notably the Drew Holiday game where he, like, stole the ball twice. Like,
that was
might
crazy.
Have kind of kept them alive in a, you know – might have kept this perception that the Bucks can like survive on offense without Chris Middleton alive when I don't know. Like I get that like you've got Joe Ingles and stuff now, but like, and he's been fine, but like, is that really going to be your solution when the playoff comes around? Is Jay Crowder on offense going to be the solution when it comes around? Because by the way, the Miami Heat got better when they put PJ Tucker in instead of Jay Crowder. So like, that's what you're counting on. Like,
I just don't think they have enough.
I'm skeptical of Jay Crowder. I don't know. I like Jay Crowder. Boss man was great for the Celtics. Member of the Pump Rock Celtics. All respect to the boss man.
Also, to be fair to Jay Crowder, they had no one the year in between PJ Tucker and Jay Crowder, and they got to the finals with Jay Crowder.
With the Heat did?
Yeah, the Heat had that. He went to Phoenix, and then the next year they got to the finals against the Bucks, who had PJ Tucker.
Yeah.
Well, that in itself might have been part of the reason why the Sixers won that game, to be honest. PJ Tucker and Tobias Harris both got hurt, and then it forced Doc to be like, all right, we got to – and I've been more anti-Niang. I thought Niang was fucking terrible in the first 2 quarters of that game. I was screaming on the broadcast during the stream, don't play him. Do not play him. And he was still continuing to play him over and over and over. I was getting so mad. But then when PJ Tucker and Tobias Harris got hurt, I was like, well, now you don't really have any other options. Like, it's fine to play him. You play McDaniels and him down the stretch, and it turned out that McDaniels hit 2 huge free throws, a big 3, had a putback, showed his value and his worth on the Sixers, especially in a matchup against the Bucks when you need long guys out there that are skilled offensively. So the Bucks had a 101.7 offensive rating versus the Celtics in the playoffs last year, which would be by far the worst offense in the NBA. And is that in the half court, Will, or is that in overall? Because if it's overall, that's dreadfully bad.
That's what I'm saying. They're like, there's more. Honestly, it says more about the last year's Celtics than it does like the Bucks being good. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe my whole point that the Celtics are like
throwing out the window
is good. Like it might be a little out the window, but like I guess this is what I'm saying is like even with the Celtics looking as mortal as they do right now, it's more just frustrating because it's like, fuck, I'm going to have to sweat out some game 7s this playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not out on the Celtics championship odds. I just, there's going to be more coin flips involved than I would like. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and the thing with the Bucks is I trust that their defense, when they really give a fuck and when they're locked in and when they have their best defensive guys out there, can stop anyone. I think that is probably the case. I think they're going to be able to slow down the Sixers offense and the Celtics offense. Their pathway to a championship is exactly what their pathway was 2 years ago, which was let's just have the best defense and hope that we can survive on offense. That might prove to be sustainable, especially if Giannis is just the best player in a Sixers series or the best player in a Celtics series, and there's nothing you can do about it. He's the best two-way player in the game right now. So there's really nothing you can do about that. I think that the Bucks should be considered contenders just as much as any other team. But this idea that they have now leapt every other team it's just not what matches my eye test when I watch the games. I think they've had some really good shooting nights. I think that they've been better because they have more depth and more guys that they can go to, which, as we know, is important for the playoffs. But I'm worried when the second best player on a championship team 2 years ago is not the second best player right now. And that's where my concern comes in for them, because Chris Middleton has played 400 minutes of basketball this year. He's barely played. He's playing 21 minutes a game. He's played 21 games. You need to have more time between now and the playoffs. He needs to prove that defensively he's not going to get targeted by guys like James Harden and Jason Tatum, and that he can stay on the court in that regard. And if that is the case, that's why I'm more concerned about the Bucks than I was in the past. And I think that if we had a fully healthy Middleton, I might be like, shit, they might just win the fucking whole thing again. I just think that there is some, I know the regular season and the playoffs are different. The Sixers have won 3 of the last 5 games against the Bucks. The Sixers are 7-8 when Joel Embiid plays against the Bucks in his career. This is not a new thing. The Sixers have always competed with the Bucks, and this idea that the Sixers can't compete with the Bucks in a series is now being proven that I think that they, at a minimum, can take them to 6 games and give them a scare. And if that's the case, then I don't think that this narrative that they are unbeatable, in a way that we probably sounded when we talked about the Celtics early in the season, when we might have overreacted to a hot start a little bit. But I don't know. I'm very much in the camp that I think that Will said 400 minutes of basketball sounds like Middleton could be a serious defensive player of the year candidate. That's right.
Yeah. It's
not after the other night.
I was gonna say, now I know you're making fun of Jaren Jackson Jr., which thank you, Will, for
certainly not Rob Williams.
Yeah, it's Jaren Jackson Jr. is who he's talking about.
Yeah. My if we see Chris Middleton in the next month turn around and be, holy shit, he's averaging an efficient 20 a game and his defense looks better, I'm totally in on the Bucks being the favorites in the East.
Possible, by the way. Yeah. Clay looked cooked.
Sure.
Possible. That's very much in the cards.
But still not playing back-to-backs.
Yeah.
They sat him out yesterday.
No.
Still not playing starters minutes. Still, in my opinion, Chris Middleton is the second most important player in a Bucks championship run, because I've already seen it. I'm sorry, Drew Holiday is not going to shoot 45%. If Drew Holiday shoots 45% from 3 and the Bucks win the title, then I would be fucking flabbergasted, because every year we see this, we get to the playoffs and his shooting falls off a cliff. So I don't know. I actually think the Brook Lopez element of it, I'm shocked how well he always plays against the Sixers, considering their size and the ability to guard him. But I'll say that I feel just as good as I felt about this matchup before. And if you're still saying that this is the same old Sixers team, I don't know what else to tell you. They come back in even the Mavericks game, they fucking lost the Mavericks game. They were down 23 points in the third quarter. I know that Joel and Harden were on the bench, but Maxey leads a comeback, cuts the lead to 5 in the fourth quarter. They almost made the Mavericks choke in that game. This team is different from a statistical standpoint. They're much better two-way team than they've been in the past. They're much better built for the playoffs. And they also, most importantly to me, they never just lay down and die, which was always the sign of old Sixers teams, was wow, they did not give the effort that they really needed to. And it's very few and far between that they have done that this year. And they've really only been blown out twice all season, which is not very stereotypical of the Sixers team. So I'm just saying, I think that this race is a lot closer than people give it credit for.
Yeah. And look, Giannis is going to have plenty of time to rack up these Eastern Conference titles in 2 years. By the way, in 2 years, where are you going to come down on this when we've got, because we're obviously going to have a rivalry out west in 2 years. You're going to have the Ime Udoka coached Houston Rockets with James Harden and Jaylen Brown. And then you're going to have the Los Angeles Lakers with Jason Tatum and Joel Embiid.
True. That's a good point. I didn't think about it. Yeah.
Which of those?
Also, don't forget the San Antonio Spurs with Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, right. Giannis has just got to bide his time here at this point.
Yeah, exactly. He's just got to wait out the other teams.
Yeah, he'll be fine. And then, Drew and Chris will be gone, but he'll still have free reign.
Well, I guess my whole thing with Giannis is like, I think that Giannis proved it in the last 2 playoffs that the way that I will describe him, the one word that I will describe him is that he is just relentless. Like it's like, oh man, Giannis is 1 for 9 and looks horrible. It doesn't matter. Like it doesn't phase him in a way that it phases other players.
No.
Even the best players on our team, like Joel and Tatum, who can kind of lose their focus in a game where they're not playing well and they complain to the refs and whatever. Giannis is not like that, and I'll give him credit for that. But just 2 years ago, the narrative on him was that he was like a playoff choker. And
this is why it's so insane. Like, like if Kevin Durant hits that shot, aren't they basically being treated like the Sixers right now? Like
that. Well, that was the thing. I got drunk on the stream the other night and I went off on a rant on the whole thing. Like literally exactly what you're talking about right now. Because Bucks fans were pissing me off on Twitter before and whatever. But long story short here is that it's literally when we say it's a game of inches, like it's football. Like the difference between the narrative is that sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't get lucky. I don't think that there's anything in their statistical profile in their playoff resume that proves that the Bucks are unbeatable. And I feel like we keep getting this shift. We keep getting this shift in the narrative that a team becomes unbeatable, but it's like the parity in the NBA this year. Look at the net ratings. The net ratings are like the Celtics are 1, the Cavs are like just behind them, but like
it's like there's like 0.7 or something.
It's like there's like 2 or 3 points separating like 8 teams. Like this is going to be more competitive than we've ever seen in terms of the amount of teams that I think can genuinely at least get to the conference finals or finals. I'm still skeptical on the amount of teams that can win. But I still think that the parity that we're seeing, like people have not registered in their brain that like we could see some first round upsets and we could see some crazy shit happen in the playoffs that we don't entirely anticipate. I did like we're over the Warriors era. Like the Bucks aren't the Warriors, the Celtics aren't the Warriors. Like that's just kind of how it is.
Crazy how often Zach Lowe said a lot early in the year that the Celtics were a Jimmy Butler 3 away from being totally different on them. I wonder why he never brings up the Kevin Durant 3. So weird.
Are you now saying that he is an operative for the Milwaukee Bucks in addition to the Raptors and the Heat?
No, I'm saying he's still a Heat op is what I'm saying. He's a Heat op and a Raptors op. This is like
to be fair, I think people do bring up the Kevin Durant thing a lot. Like I think it's been, if anything, it might have been a little bit overplayed. Zach
went out of his way to not talk about the Celtics for 6 months, and then it's like, oh, all right, it's time to talk Celtics. Like, was nothing. Yeah, no, he was really bad. He took they got him shooting a lot of jump shots in that.
Yeah, for anyone who's listening, Giannis had a 51% true shooting and averaged 5 turnovers versus the Celtics.
He was not good. Yeah.
In Giannis's defense, he had to carry. Like he was just like, fuck it. And once again, relentless. It never felt until game 7. It never felt like they were out of any of those games, despite Giannis basically having to do all of it himself with everyone else kind of going into doo-doo mode. So yes. All right. Let's move on to the next thing. I feel the same way that I felt. I'm sure I'm not taking anything from the next. After this little stretch is over for the Sixers, for the Bucks, and the Celtics, I'm not taking anything into account. I'm literally like, I think teams between maybe the rest of this week or maybe the next 2 weeks, they're going to try a little bit. But once we hit the end of this month, I'm not taking anything from those games. No. Like until the playoffs, because I really think teams are going to be like, look, there are some teams that need to fight for their playoff lives. It's going to be a little bit different. Even if the Sixers went 500 or even if the Sixers won out or they lost a bunch of close games or whatever, I'm not going to panic from any standpoint. I just think that we're at the point of the season where everyone is going to be coasting that doesn't have something that's like basically keeping them alive down the stretch here. And I'm going to look at the whole picture, and the whole picture tells me that this shit is way closer than we had anticipated that it was going to be. I don't think there's like 2 clear favorites above everyone else. But anyway, okay. So yeah, I know. I kept saying that it was playing against the Bucks the other night felt like playing, even though they've hit every 3, they were incredibly impressive offensively. and they won the field goal margin. They won the 3-point margin. They shot better from the line. They got more rebounds, and the Sixers still won somehow. I have no idea how that fucking happened. But I kept saying during the game the other night that I felt like I was watching a Big Ten football game when Giannis would have the ball. It's just so frustrating. But I was just so numb to it. But he only missed one free throw the whole game. I think he went like 17 for 18. And I was like, well, if you lose this game, what can you really do? But they won. They have more fight in them. They don't lay down and die. And that's why I'm higher on this Sixers team than I've been on teams in the past. All right. Let's get into some other stuff. Look, I don't really want to talk about the off the court stuff with Ja Morant. I don't really think that people want to hear two white guys' opinions on this subject matter. There's a lot of good stuff out there. You can go read about that. You can hear about that from other media personalities. But I do want to talk about how this affects them on the court, because we've been Grizzlies skeptics. Sam more so than me. He has been a bigger, like, they're frauds. I've been more like they can compete, but I'm still skeptical of the half-court offense once again in a playoff setting. I think that this Steven Adams thing has proven that. But now you have Ja Morant missing this game, next game. Brandon Clark's done for the year, which was kind of lost in all this. He tore his Achilles the other night. He's out for the whole season. Look, as they've proven time and time again, every time we think that they're dead, like Ja's out or Jaren Jackson's out or whatever, they certainly fight in these games, and they have random guys that can pop up like Santi Aldama or whoever. But I think that I feel very similar to how I felt about the Warriors early in the season, where I was like, the vibe has shifted. And if the vibe has shifted, I can't consider you contenders. Like, obviously two off the court things that are very different. But like, I have a hard time thinking that a team can just like overcome this and like win a title, especially when I already had massive question marks about the Grizzlies in the first place.
I mean, I don't think win the title. So is it bad to say that, like, because I think you do need to kind of go through some shit to like be now this type of shit. I don't know. Yeah. Shams just dropped a report while we've been recording, by the way, that says that they had a players only meeting and Steven Adams was kind of running it, like talking about like road discipline basically when they're like on the road and like, so
Verno justified.
Yeah. So Verno, I know Verno is, I'm sure. I think they have their live show too. Like, by the way, what about the timing on that?
Think of that. Oh my God.
Yeah. You're gonna have to like have the mic ready for Vernon. Like, God, KOC and Vernon trying to suss through this.
Oh boy.
Anyway,
well, look, it's the first
time for that one.
I was gonna say, this is the first time that Verno has said he's actually concerned, because like this is a serious thing, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, this is a serious thing. I mean, like, but just sticking to the basketball stuff. I mean, look. Even without Morant, they're still like a very good team. There's a lot of like, points to that. And there's been people like debunking this, like, they obviously can't score enough in like a playoff series without Ja Morant. Like, sure. You know what I'm saying? But I do think that, I don't know. I do think that you kind of need to, because I think what the Grizzlies really have done is they've made themselves into like villains. Like, they talk a lot of shit and everyone's like, no, you know what, fuck these guys, and they play hard against them like every night. Like, and I will say that probably does battle test you a little bit, but it also probably wears you the fuck down like over the course of a season. Like, you're playing not quite playoff games, but you're playing chippy fucking games every goddamn, you're yelling at Shannon Sharp, like you turn around and Dylan Brooks is punching another guy in the nuts. Like, it's got to be a lot, especially for guys on that team. Like, I think about Desmond Bane. I don't think Desmond Bane really wants to be like. He
is probably just going to be like, what do I have to do? Like, this just cyclone of madness around me at all times. He just seems like the most normal dude, and he's like.
Yeah. I'd like to point out this all popped off when bad seed Luke Kennard got there too. So we gotta keep an eye on Luke Kennard. Yeah, why were they getting rid of him? Yeah. Anyway, so
and the Clippers vibes are great. So
yeah. But just I don't know. I guess what my thing with the Grizzlies, they've always been kind of a piece short. You know what I'm saying? I think the problem with the Grizzlies is they're a good team, okay, but I think that they would be a little bit more. They would be scrutinized a little bit more, kind of like the Kings are. if it wasn't such a bloggers fucking Hawks 2.0 situation of like, oh, they drafted everyone, like, oh my god, that's, and I think that obfuscates a lot of their issues and concerns. Like, I think that the people who usually dig into shit and point out stuff and the flaws with these teams, especially statistically, have a vested interest in the Grizzlies being good because it is something you can write about. Like, it's not just the fucking Celtics again. Like, oh, here we go.
The small bean and small bean drafting team industrial complex is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, it really is. No, the small bean drafting team industrial complex, because it's like, it's the same shit with the Hawks. Like, because everyone wants, like everyone wants to be disgusted. Like, even Bill and Russillo.
You mean the old Hawks teams?
Yes.
Or the new one?
No, the old Hawks teams.
Like, okay, so like the 60
win Hawks teams.
Yeah.
Because I think of that as like the high watermark of like this particular brand of basketball.
Small market, competitive.
Like, we're just everyone, because there is like a certain disgust. Like, I think when we talk about how these guys are analyzed, Simmons and Russillo can barely contain it when they talk about free agents and players moving teams and stuff like that. And I think that there is like a how dare you to players about like constructing the teams instead of executives. Like that makes it more pure. You know what I'm saying? If there's an executive involved instead of a guy, changing teams. And I don't know where we bought into that the idea that that's like magic, that like a 18-year-old being told at gunpoint, like if you want to be a millionaire, you have to, play here, is like somehow more noble than, I don't know, James Harden, like going back to Houston. Those are identical things. I'm sorry. Those are both gross. Just they're making
agreed. James Harden going back to Houston is the grossest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. But like everyone is universally agreed that like that's weird. Why would he do that? Versus like, yeah, that's a little weird that De'Aaron Fox has to play for the Kings for, you know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
Like there's this idea that it's somehow more pure. You know what I'm saying? That there is like
mom and pop is the one way that the people they treat it like it's a small business.
Exactly.
Which also thing. If you've ever worked for a small business, a lot of small business owners are actually fascists.
That's what I'm saying. It's the tyrant shit. Like the small business thing is like it's a place of evil. You know what I'm saying? Because like you are leveraging, you're not big enough to compete with the giant conglomerates, but you're leveraging the same dirty tactics on a smaller scale. So you're just as much of a demon, but you're like, you have to do it. So anyway, I guess
you're microdosing, ruining people's lives.
Exactly. And I just think, to go back to the Grizzlies, I think that how the Grizzlies kind of get by without being recognized as this, because I think there is, including us, by the way, there is in the NBA underbelly of the fucking hagfish and fucking parasites that rely on the NBA being interesting.
Yes.
That, a team doing something. Yeah. A team doing something like building a team from scratch and making a contender in somewhere like Memphis is enticing because there's so much to write about there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like,
it's also built on the fact that, like, I think by all things considered, people love franchises that do it the right way, quote unquote.
Yes.
And the Grizzlies rebuild, which really kind of goes back to what we always talk about, which is just that, like, basically every team structure, every rebuilding idea is all built on, and Sam Hinkie will tell you this, Danny Ainge will tell you this, anyone who's ever built a team will tell you this, there's a lot of luck involved.
Yeah.
And the Grizzlies' current iteration of this team was built on them jumping up to 2 in the draft, grabbing Ja Morant, and then everyone else can, just love
a pick they would have given the Celtics if it didn't jump up, by the way.
Yeah, it was what, top 4 protected or
8,
top,
I believe.
8 protected, whatever.
Yeah.
They jump all the way up. They get Ja. They turn into, overnight, they seemingly become, because the Ja pick hits, everything else we can just kind of fawn over in terms of like, oh, Jaren Jackson Jr., oh, the Desmond Bane pick, oh, getting all these guys in the late first, early second that have really been contributors to winning basketball. Brandon Clark, even Xavier Tillman can fill in. They do a lot of the things that people think are like right things, right? So because of that, it becomes they become sort of these sweethearts, these darlings overnight. And then, as they pointed out in the Bill podcast, everything's really gone off the rails in the last year. Not just, but this was before the Ja stuff. This was before Ja had all this off the court shit. It was like everyone was getting up to play them. Everyone was like, "Fuck them." Yeah. They were talking like they had already won the title. Dylan Brooks literally referred to them as a future dynasty before they even got to a conference finals. Yeah. And now you're starting to see everything kind of shift back. Now, the thing that I think that could hold the Grizzlies afloat here in the next, let's say 2 months, next month of the season as we close out the regular season, is I do think that their defense is going to be really, really good. I think that the one thing is that when Ja, as you said, like you get to the playoffs, you get to the higher levels of the playoffs, they're probably not going to be able to score enough to really compete with teams. But let's say Ja does come back at some point, and let's say that he only misses a few games. They said he's like indefinitely away from the team. I don't think it's going to last that long.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
And their defense, it's kind of like the thing I talked about last year where like the Heat needed Tyler Hero, right? Like the Heat needed a shot creator. They needed a guy who could hit big shots, who could do that. But the second you remove Tyler Hero from the team in that Celtics series, they became the team that had no defensive weak links. And they became the team that can kind of do a lot of things on defense. That there are going to be lineups that the Grizzlies can go to that really don't have a ton of weak defensive links. I don't know if they're going to be able to score enough. I watched that Grizzlies Clippers game last night, and I was like, they still just play so well together as a team. It's clear that they're going to be able to be competent in these next few weeks. And until everyone but Brandon Clark gets healthy, I'm completely out on them because of the off the court stuff. I was already on the fence on them with the on the court stuff, but now the off the court stuff just adding another element to that. I don't see how you can really rebound this season and kind of turn shit around. Now, right now they're the 2 seed in the Western Conference, and everyone is bunched in that 2 seed in that 2 to 7 range, I believe it is. By the way, another thing that has been lost in all this, Milwaukee is the number 1 seed, and they're starting to like create a little bit of a gap between them and the Celtics and the Sixers. The Nuggets are 6.5 games in first place. They're absolutely running away with the 1 seed in the Western Conference. The Grizzlies, on the other hand, are currently they are 6.5 back in the 2 seed, but the Kings could be the 2 seed. The Kings are 1 game back from the Grizzlies right now for the 2 seed, which I know we've been doubting the Kings all year, but like if they get into the 2 seed, it's also possible the Suns are only 3 games back from the Grizzlies right now. They could also make a run and get to that 2 seed. And I think that it's probably in their best interest to avoid the Warriors in the first round. And by the way, they're 3-0 with KD so far. And they also probably want to avoid the Nuggets until the conference finals. So them getting into that 2 seed. But the Grizzlies, I think that you're probably going to see a little bit of a fall off over the next few weeks. I think that this team that I was already a little bit lower on as a whole, I feel like they're probably going to lose in the first round. Like they don't get the Kings matchup anymore. Now they're going to be matching up with the Warriors, or they're going to be, if they fall to that 4-5 matchup, they're going to have to play either the Suns or the Warriors or the Mavericks or one of these teams that I guarantee you they do not want to see in the first round.
Wolves, part 2.
It's possible. The Wolves are the 6th seed right now.
Yeah. Wolves part 2.
As everyone, kind of had their funeral for the Wolves early on, and they're quietly in the 6th seed, just on the heels of the Warriors in the 5 seed.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, and I don't know. I guess just my thing is like, it feels like everyone's more on. I don't feel as insane as I did like going into last year and going into this year, where I just felt like everyone was ignoring clear signs with the Grizzlies that like they were a young team because like just blog boys wanted this so fucking bad, like this so fucking bad. And now that it's like, I think some of the like the recent slide and definitely the Jaw stuff has kind of opened that up now where everyone's kind of more willing to look at this with a objective eye and be like, oh, well, yeah, that is kind of weird that, they might suck dog shit if it slows down in the playoffs. It is kind of weird that they almost lost to a fucking Wolves team that was like, I mean, relatively good, but like,
certainly not. I don't think win a playoff series good in the Western Conference. We did.
Yes.
I mean, that would have been the first 2-7 upset in a decade. Like, yeah, it doesn't happen very often. Is the point here? Yeah,
yeah, and I don't know. I mean, look, on the other side of the coin, I also don't think the Grizzlies are like that much worse than a lot of these other teams. I think that the Suns and Nuggets are probably in a different stratosphere, but like, I don't know if Ja comes back and like Jaren Jackson has a series where he doesn't foul every 12 seconds, like they could absolutely beat the Warriors. They could beat the, some of these other teams. They could beat the Mavericks, I think. So I don't know. I just, I feel more sane now that everyone's kind of seeing the same thing that I've seen the whole time. But like, I don't know. I just don't think I also doubt they hold on to like the 2 seed. I think it's more likely they end up like a 4-5.
Well, it kind of reminds you of the Steven Adams injury, kind of reminds you of the Lonzo Ball injury, where you're like, wait, all it took was your 5th best player getting hurt for the entire team to kind of fall into the shitter. Obviously, the Grizzlies are way better than the Bulls, but like comparatively, it feels as though losing a player that is not a guy that's going to be able to play all the time in the playoffs is probably not great for your championship odds.
Well, and just also like the West was absolutely Mickey Mouse last year. Like I know this is something that I personally just believe, but like for example, the Warriors were the number 1 defense in the NBA last year playing in the West. And what are they now? Like they're like 13th, 15th, something like that. Like, yeah. I'm sorry, like that is not entirely a byproduct of just the Warriors being worse because like Clay's more healthy. They still had Jordan Poole. Like I guess Gary Payton wasn't there, and they got Otto Porter, which I guess we've talked about. But like the same thing goes back to the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies were Mickey Mouse in it hard last year. They were also the huge beneficiaries of a West that was just not very good with the Nuggets being banged up, the Clippers throwing. The Suns were the Suns also. Yeah. I'm just saying that the West was Mickey Mouse last year. We have to take that into consideration. I think what we're seeing now are the Grizzlies also having.
What was the last year when the West wasn't Mickey Mouse? If you think about it, the last time that the Warriors won the title with KD. No, I'm dead serious right now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
because if it was definitely Mickey Mouse 2 years ago with the Suns when the Suns made it to the finals. Yeah, they literally they just got to face a team
and
that
the
was
Lakers. That Lakers year was nonsense. Yeah, I think it's been since the Warriors dynasty. It was like the last time it was not like a total shit show. I mean, hey, the East was Mickey Mouse for a lot. I think that's what I'm saying. Is just the league is like better than it used to be because like I don't like. When the hospital Celtics made the finals, that shouldn't have happened. Like, I'm sorry, or made the conference finals. They should not have taken the Cavs to
2017, 2018.
Yeah, they should not have taken the Cavs to 7 games. All
right. So on the next episode of Ball, we're going to go through the last 40 NBA titles and tell you why there hasn't been a true title since the Sixers in 1983.
No, I think the last non-Mickey Mouse season was probably Rockets
Warriors,
yeah.
2017, 2018?
Yeah, it was the last
but the East was Mickey Mouse because the Celtics made it to the conference finals.
I guess that's true.
It's the same year.
Yeah. When was the last time?
When was the last time that it wasn't Mickey Mouse?
07, probably like 2010, maybe. The Heat.
Who was so the year before, what was 16, 17 was that was the last time that we got to the finals. Both teams were healthy and the Warriors just fucking boat raced the Cavs. I think they swept them.
pretty much while the Cavs were good, pretty much every team in the East was dog water. See, the Heat,
the Raptors were always in the conference finals and they got crushed.
Yeah, the Heat had the Pacers and the Celtics, like the old Celtics and the like the Pacers. Yeah, it was
last time it wasn't Mickey. It was when we had the NBA on NBC. That's right.
Yeah. No, I really think it was like 2010 because you had like the LeBron Cavs, you had the Dwight Howard Magic, you had the Celtics, you had the Pistons, who were still like a real
on
team
the
at
end.
That point.
The
on
end.
The, on the end, yeah,
was that 2010.
Yeah, it was
they
right
were still together.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
No, 2010.
Then the Pacers. Sorry,
I was going to say. I was like 2000. I was going to say the 2010 would because the Pistons traded Chauncey.
Oh no, and the Bulls, but then the Bulls got hurt. Yeah,
sure.
But they had the Joakim Noah Bulls. Like that East was like pretty good, and then the West was really good. They had the Lakers. They had the Mavs. There were So
there were like a lot every of title from the last 12 years.
Yes, it's been Mickey Mouse. Yeah, throw it out, toss it out.
We're gonna go through. We're gonna go through all of them.
Now, is it weird that I said the last time there was a real title was 2 years after the Celtics won the only title of my lifetime?
Oh, and they got to the finals that year. Very convenient of you to bring up that year. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, Will's on to me. Will knows.
Yeah. So, all right. So the last thing before we get out of here.
Yeah,
we'll continue with our little temperature check here of the teams in the Western Conference.
Yeah,
the floor is yours. Take your victory lap. The Mavericks are a mess. Like 2-5 with Kyrie and Luka both playing.
Yeah,
honestly, the one win they had, the Sixers. People aren't talking about this, and I'm not trying to give the Sixers an excuse. They should have competed in that game. Joel didn't play the night before. That was a pathetic effort, honestly, by Joel. That was one of the worst games I've seen him play in the second half. And it should not be excused. If you want to be a championship team, you got to compete better when your best player's on the court. Having said that, the Sixers were on the second half of a back-to-back that game. Tyrese Maxey and James Harden played a combined, 80 minutes in a 24-hour span.
Yeah.
And Maxey almost single-handedly brought them back in that Mavericks game. The Mavericks, that was one of their 2 wins. Their other win with Luka and Kyrie was against the Spurs, who just got blown out by the Rockets last night.
Oh, my God.
The Mavericks have had 2, and basically they have lost every other game that they have been in. They did push the Suns a little bit yesterday. I was impressed with their effort offensively.
That's sheer Luka loathing of Devin Booker. like that is purely what that is.
Built on the force of that.
He fucking hates Devin Booker. Is all that was.
But even the I'll be honest. I guess I'm a little bit more concerned because I've always built this Mavericks team being title contenders on the back of Luka being the best player in any series, and he's proven that he can be the best player in a series with Devin Booker, with Kawhi Leonard, with legitimate superstar talents.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, Luka has not been Luka. If you watch these games, he doesn't look like himself. I know this, it's very funny coming from a Sixers fan, but holy shit, does he complain to the officials. It's when things really aren't going his way, it basically comes down to him and Booker especially constantly complaining to the officials. But I don't know, their on-offs with Luka and Kyrie are actually worse than when it's just Kyrie on the court. When it's just Luka on the court since they've made the trade, they've been terrible. I don't know if he's healthy or if he's just not in shape or what's happening, but they're completely fraudulent in my eyes. They're not contenders in any capacity based on what they've shown us so far since the trade.
Yeah, I just they were thin to begin with, and they got rid of one of the only guys who's a real playoff player in Dorian Finney-Smith in that trade. And you brought back Kyrie, who's just a total wild card. So I don't know. It looks bad. Forgive me if I seem distracted. The Celtics are starting Mike Muscala.
No, you're good.
Yeah. But yeah, I really don't think they are. I just don't think The West is like pretty solid this year, especially since the Suns got KD. Like I just don't think they have the horses. I know they made the conference finals last year. Luka's insane, but like the Nuggets are a real team. Even though we just slandered the Grizzlies for like 90 minutes, like if they have all their guys, they're like, they are a respectable team for like round 2. The Warriors are still gonna be in there with their giant net rating swings.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but let me slip into my Bill voice. Are we seeing a little bit of Steph Curry Ewing theory?
Yes, because
they have there are 2 games above 500 without Steph this year, and they are 1 game above 500 when Steph plays this year. Their net rating is way better when Steph plays.
Yeah, so he's worse. Yeah, no, he's bad. He's bad.
Steph is over party.
Steph is Jover. He's Jover. And you know what? It's like a real portrait of Dorian Gray moment. Like ever since he's been exposed for exposing hardworking American blue collar people to the crime that was NFTs. It's interesting. His guilty conscience is eating at him, and it's affecting his play. I guess Allegedly. Anyway. Yeah. So Will is trying to use the
ignore the comments. Will is not going to derail the podcast.
He's trying to give me that Hawks team was good. They were very good. They were forcing.
Hey, if you want to derail the podcast, sign up for the Ball Patreon, and you can yell at us and get us.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm saying. Yeah, if I'm making you mad with what I'm saying, I don't know. I guess I'm not particularly super interested in this just because I just knew the Mavericks were going to suck. I mean, we're officially on the clock. Everyone's talking about Embiid as the next superstar to go. Luka. I am looking at Luka.
Bill said it today. He said they're going to re-sign the 4-year. He said they're going to re-sign Kyrie to the 4-year, or Russillo did. He was like, I think they're going to get him. I think they're going to talk themselves into it. And Bill was immediately like, I think Luka's going to want out of there if that happens. And
obviously, everyone knew that when I don't know. I just. By the way, then the Knicks are a real team when they sign him. And
sign or trade? Trade.
Both. Sign and trade for him.
Sign and trade. Okay.
Yeah.
Luka's gonna take the qualifying offer. Oh no, he already got the max extension. Actually,
yeah, he already got the max extension, so he's gonna tough it out. But I'm just saying, I don't know. Like I don't think it's gonna be for another 2 years, but he is definitely the star that is on the watch. Then again, sometimes this shit happens way faster than we think it's gonna. So who knows?
So I have said time and time again, I think they should have made more moves at the deadline. I think it was a mistake to stand pat with a roster that is so defensively flawed around 2 guys who are offensive superstars. And look, in that Sixers game, they combined for like 83 points or something. Like they were incredible. Like the shooting, the shot making. It's funny. I actually think that if the Mavs were somehow to win the West and the Sixers were to win the East, that would be a matchup I wouldn't love just because of the sheer amount of shot creation and shooting ability they have, which is why I'm not like, I'm pretty much out on them as like winning the finals contenders, but I'm not out on them winning a round or two just built on the pure upside that you can have from a hot streak from either of these guys in a playoff series. But I just don't know how they're going to defend literally anyone. Listen to the last few scores of their games. The last 3 games that these guys have played in, okay? They lost to the Pacers 124-122. They beat the Sixers 133-126. And then they lost
in regulation?
All in regulation, these games.
Oh, Jesus.
Wait, hold on. The Pacers game did not go to overtime. And then the Suns game yesterday was 130-126. Like, we have now seen a 7-game sample where they literally can't hold anyone. They just can't defend. Like they're just not they're never going to be an average defensive team. And if that's the case, you just need Kyrie and Luka to go absolutely sicko mode. And I'm really concerned about when you get to the playoffs. Like I'm concerned about who they play. I mean, Maxi Kleber being healthy certainly helps a little bit, but like it's not going to make the biggest difference in the world when I think I realized I was out on them yesterday when I tuned into the game. And look, I like Josh Green a lot. I've been a big Josh Green guy. I tuned into the game and Josh Green was guarding Kevin Durant to start the game. And I was like, yeah, this is
Yeah,
it's just not gonna work. Like, I mean, no one can guard KD.
I was gonna say, literally, no one can guard KD.
But you need to put someone that's not 6'4" on. Like, you need to put, if you're putting someone who's that small on him, they've got to be like a PJ Tucker linebacker build with long arms. Like the Nuggets, actually, weirdly enough, I think have probably the two best guys to throw at the Suns with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for Booker and Aaron Gordon in the West, and Aaron Gordon for KD. No one's stopping these guys. I'm not acting like they are. I mean, I've been concerned because I talked about the variance thing, and at a certain point yesterday, the Mavs were winning for most of that game, despite playing like shit, just because they were shooting way more threes and making way more threes. And that's something that I'm concerned about with the Suns, but that's really the only flaw I see with that team is like the lack of shooting, and until they put Wainwright in there, who could not miss in the second half, the lack of shooting, the lack of 3-point and rim and foul attempts that they're going to get compared to other teams. But overall, that's like, I'm really splitting hairs. They don't have a structural issue like the Mavericks do. And honestly, the last team I want to talk about here is the Clippers, because the Clippers are the other team.
Do we have to?
Let's just touch on it real quick.
Okay. I've had it with these. It's like the Always Sunny. I'm sick of these guys. Like, the dartboard. Like, what do they say? I forget the exact quote, but I have the Clippers picture on a dartboard. I've had enough of these guys. Like, I'm sick of them.
Another team that has now gone 1-5 with Russell Westbrook. And as we alluded to earlier, their one win is a massive comeback win where Paul George and Kawhi Leonard had to go into God mode to beat the Grizzlies without Ja Morant, Dylan Brooks, although Dylan Brooks being out might actually help them. And Steven Adams, a very short team, Grizzlies team. They lost a few nights before that to the Kings. They lost to the Warriors. They lost to the Timberwolves. They lost to the Nuggets. That was in overtime, and also it's the Nuggets. They're the best team in the West right now, I think. And then they famously lost that massive explosion game against the Kings a week ago as well. And my question for you, Sam, is, are the Clippers going to make the playoffs?
I lean yes, just because the other teams are so underwhelming, but like...
if the play-in started today, they would be in it.
Yeah. But like, again, they are what?
They're the 8 seed.
The 8 seed, yep. They're only 2 games up on the Lakers. I think they're better than the Lakers. But like, the Pelicans could absolutely jump them. The Blazers could jump them. Honestly, the Thunder could jump them too. Like, Sam Presti is doing everything he can to keep the Thunder down there where they are. If you know Sam Presti personally and the Thunder make the playoffs, I want you to call him. I need a wellness check on Sam Presti if the Thunder make the playoffs this year. That is literally the worst thing that could happen to him. He would be devastated if that happened. So I guess just my thing is, I guess they will, but like,
by default,
I'm gonna be really mad if they like actually make the conference finals, because they're just I'm so sick of them. I really am. Like, I don't enjoy watching. Do you enjoy watching them? I really don't. Like,
not really.
I don't know.
I
know I just said I wanted Tatum to play more like Kawhi Leonard, but like, what am I really asking for here? Like, I think maybe not win more games. Yeah,
maybe. Well, though, it's so hard for me because it's like it's just so mind blowing to me that you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who are still really fucking good. Like, still in the top 20 players in the NBA. Maybe when they're on top 15, and they're this. And I know the Westbrook thing is going to get the headlines, but like, and I don't think Westbrook was ever a good fit with that team. But like, I'm even starting to be like, what's the deal with Ty Lue? Because I was a big Ty Lue guy, and I wanted the Sixers to hire him. I thought he did a great job when Kawhi got hurt in the playoffs a few years ago. Famously, LeBron was always a fan of him. Like, I'm starting to get concerned with like I know Clippers fans have been pulling their hair about this. I've had a few DM me. I've talked to a few. He keeps starting Marcus Morris, who, if you watch these games, he is cooked, man. He can't move laterally. He's getting blown by guys. He has horrible shot selection. The only reason, as Rob Flom pointed out earlier, the only reason you would keep Marcus Morris in your starting lineup is for mid-range shot creation. But since you got Russ, that's less of a thing that you need because he's going to have the ball. He's going to need spacing around him, just like the other stars are. You have options. You can play man more. You can play Nicholas Batum, who we have brought up before. He's been really good in his role for them. I just think that like maybe they just all need to get healthy and right at the same time. But I've been skeptical of this team for most of the season just because I don't believe that you can do. And I said the same thing about the Warriors too. And I know the Warriors have proven it more to us in the past, and maybe I should trust them a little bit more. But you can't just show me nothing with all your guys all year. You can't just show me we're a 500 team and then say we're going to flip the switch. Historically speaking, that never happens. Yeah. It's almost impossible in terms of how hard your road is going to be to even get back to the finals when you don't have one of those top 3 seeds. A large majority of teams that win the championship are teams that are beasts in the regular season. And none of these teams have shown me when their guys are healthy, when they're not healthy, that they can be consistent enough to string together enough wins for me to really give a shit about them. And like I've jokingly said they've had too many guys, but I actually kind of think it's becoming a problem for them. I'm like, defensively, they're just a fucking mess. Russell Westbrook isn't going to help that. Marcus Morris certainly shouldn't be in the rotation over Robert Covington, and who has actually played pretty decent for them, and Nicholas Batum, who should be getting more minutes, and Terrence Mann should honestly be getting more minutes. He's looked great in the games that I've seen him. He's been keeping them in a lot of these games with his hustle and his effort. Like, I just think that the Clippers got too greedy with this shit, man. Like they went all in on a team, and they said we're gonna pay everyone and we're gonna give it guys don't have defined roles. They don't give effort on every single night. And defensively, they're just like really flawed with their best players on the court.
Yeah. Yeah. Trill, just something that I was noticing. This is a little bit of an aside, just about the Clippers. I'm checking out Celtics Cavs, and there's a guy on the Cavs. His name is Dean Wade, and that makes me think. That name kind of sounds like he could be like an accountant or something like that. I think wouldn't that be crazy if it was like
pretty wild?
Dean Wade, you could say like Dean Wade for all your accounting needs. That
would be wild.
If I came up with a joke like that, I would definitely say it 50 to 37 million times during my podcast because it's so good.
Is he any relation to Dwayne Wade?
Yeah, he also played for the Cavs, but this is Dean Wade.
Oh, okay.
He could be an accountant.
Yeah,
it's crazy. For all your accounting needs. I guess I'm over the Clippers. I do feel bad for Clippers fans. I kept like you said, I kept having faith that Ty Lue was gonna like right the ship. And honestly, I'm still not totally convinced that he won't in the playoffs. But if he does now, I'll be annoyed. Like, fuck you, man. Like, why did you make me worry about this the whole like
sure.
Yeah, like,
I had people tweeting at me that they have a lot of Doc Rivers in their DNA, and I'm like, I don't know. At a certain point, like, Ty Lue might not be the guy we thought he was. Like
maybe.
And maybe it's less of Ty Lue. Maybe it's more of the stars just not giving a fuck on every given night. But they got to start giving a fuck over the next few weeks, or else they're going to be in the play-in. And right now, if this would just be like the spoiled brat, underachieving teams in the plan right now with the Mavericks and the Clippers in the who cares? We just won't care about the regular season. We won't care about anything. And then they get to then they're 2 losses away from completely missing the playoffs for the second straight year for the Clippers. I know Kawhi was out last year, but I'm gonna put my money on it right now. Mm-hmm. They're blowing it up after the season. In some capacity.
Yes, they've got to.
Whether it's Paul George or Kawhi Leonard asking for a trade or Paul George forcing or them saying we need to trade Paul for something else. I just don't see a way. Like, you can't be down this bad and then turn it around and win the championship or get to the finals. Like, it's just not in the cards for me.
God, the Russell Westbrook is the Grim Reaper knocking on the door again, like with the team that detonates right after signing him.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Last thing before we get out of here. Paul George for Harden swap. I've heard people say this, which the Clippers would never do this because Harden isn't under contract and it would be a sign and trade, and they would be like, why the fuck are we giving up Paul George for a sign and trade guy? But I actually think that if Harden makes some sense, like, Harden is the guy that makes more sense for that Clippers team. And as much as I love Paul George and would love to have a star wing to go with Maxey and Embiid, the decision-making late game between Joel Embiid and Paul George would probably drive me off a fucking cliff. Like you need to have what the thing about Harden this year has taught me is that you need to have a guy with the ball who is going to make the right decisions in clutch time. And as amazing as Paul George is talent-wise, he still makes some bozo-ass decisions. And that Kings game the other night, there was 20 seconds left on the shot clock. The Clippers were down 2, and he shot a pull-up 3 with 20 seconds left on the shot clock. Like, it's just constant with him. And he's amazingly talented. I've always thought he was underrated. If anything, I always defended him when he had those shitty playoff runs, like that he would right the ship. But yeah, the Paul George late game experience is can be a massive issue. And I think the Clippers are going to learn that as we get closer to the playoffs here. So, all right. Anything else you want to say, Sam?
Well, as I'm saying, I'm watching Celtics Cavs here, and I have to say that as just like to plug my friend Sean at Local Dingus on Twitter with his nickname that he came up with for Ricky Rubio, which I think about every time I see him, Sticky Pupio. So Sticky Pupio, good luck in the game tonight. I hope the Celtics win instead.
Let's go. All right. If you're still listening, I'll be streaming for Timberwolves Sixers tomorrow. Follow me on Playback, and I'll be streaming all throughout the season. So
we also have one more thing to plug. Trill and I are going to kick off a reading series.
Yes.
So next week we are this Thursday.
Later this week. Yeah,
later this week, Wednesday or Thursday, we are going to be doing our first old school Bill Simmons column reads. We're going to be going back and rereading some of Bill's classic columns. I picked out a first one, presented it to Trill, and he said, we cannot do this on the free one. We have to be paywall.
So that's how good it is. It has to be behind the paywall.
So unfortunately, it will be behind the paywall. Sickos, you will want. It's very good. I gotta say, this is by far the best Bill column I've ever read. I went deep and found the best one. So
we have that coming for you. So sign up for the Ball Patreon. You'll get that on your feeds later this week. Also, yes, Jonathan, it's true. I can't read. That's why Sam will be doing the reading.
So I will be doing the reading, and
because he can read books and articles.
Well, and we will have $6,000 because of our Underdog winnings. The later on this week with which to send Trill to adult ed.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah. Reading's bad for you. All right. Talk to you later.